Hey y'all, this is Isaiah Talks Films, and today I'll be reviewing the new movie Undertone directed by Ian Tucson. This is an A24 film, as many of y'all know. A24 is a popular film company in the film cinephile world. They have made some popular movies such as Hereditary and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you like movies. I'll be posting every Friday and sometimes Wednesdays. This new movie is a horror film released on Friday the 13th, which stars a paranormal podcaster, Evie, played by Nina Kiri, who interacts with her off screen co host, Justin, played by Adam DeMarco. She encounters a story in her episode when a man records sounds of his wife sleeping. Throughout the movie, she becomes deep into these stories by reversing messages of what sound like normal, like children's stories, etc., and then finding like deeper messages about them online in the internet and so on. And while she's doing that too, she's also caring for her sick mother at home. The film tackles horror in podcasting, which is a smart decision, especially in the modern era because of how popular podcasts are today. Seems like everyone, and I mean everyone, has one of their own podcasts, including many former childhood stars of kids shows having their own podcasts, celebrities have their own podcasts, athletes have their own podcasts, like pretty much everyone. A popular podcast is definitely the true crime podcast and especially the paranormal podcast, which these two hosts are doing this movie. A huge reason why I think a horror film tackling a podcast is a great idea is because the film can rely on great sound effects to create suspense, especially watching this in a theater. In podcasts, you don't have to watch the people on the screen, and it's something you can engage with through your ears. One of the most effective ways, in my opinion, to create disturbing and terrifying scenes in movies is when you don't show it on screen, but can use different filmmaking techniques such as sound effects to create interesting horrifying scenes. A big reason is because since we don't see it, we can create these horror images in our own head. The film's single location in Ivy's house is similar to many horror films. The one setting also use is also can also create this really like isolated claustrophobic feel in the area, especially in the house. Even though this is a big house, the way everything is like shot, like you have like these shots where like they're shooting from like the kitchen, like she's far away from the screen, but you can tell everything's dark and everything's empty. And I really love that detail that they use. And what's interesting about like using homes in horror films, which is homes are these are the places you're supposed to feel safe, but in horror films it flips to something that can cause pain and traumatic feelings that can also harm you as well. Throughout the building of the paranormal podcast story, the life of Evie begins to become affected by this podcast, especially with her interactions with the host, making her starting out enthusiastic about this, but to becoming more intense, angry, and jumpy throughout the movie. What is interesting about this is that they actually continue to do the podcast after all this is affecting them. I think a big reason is because of the nature of how interesting paranormal podcasts are building stories that they can't help to see where it goes. Like they just have to continue. We see the podcast affect Evie's life by causing her to get into a fight with her co-host. The isolation at her house is also causing feeling of distance, relationship with her boyfriend as well, with her even in a scene like questioning whether or not she actually wants to go out for like a party with her boyfriend as well. And as well as her like deciding whether not to just stay in her with her mom, which throughout the movie it doesn't feel like she can move at all or anything. You can tell there is something going wrong with her mother, who is sleeping throughout the movie. The movie is great at tackling our obsession with paranormal podcasts and are using clues and music to find secret messages. Really reminds me of like other like movies, like a new spin on like movies like The Conversation or by Francis Ford Coppola, starring Gene Hackman, and Blowout, directed by Brian De Palma, starring John Travolta, where many people, which also uses like sound effects as well for that one to create for people to find like answers for something, which will also affect them and others throughout this, while also showing how engagement with these things can cause, as this film shows, psychological effects to our character. I really did enjoy this film and how it used sound to create intense scenes for the audience, and really recommend to watch this in theaters. For my rating, I would give this an 8 out of 8. Great movie to watch in theaters, especially Friday the 13th, especially with that sound and great speakers. That's all I got for my review. Let me know in the comments if you've seen this movie. What did you think of it? And I'll continue to make reviews every Friday now and sometimes Wednesday. See y'all next time. This is Isaiah Talks Films.